That's good enough. So I've been doing some pet portraits lately. I'm pretty sure you guys have noticed. So I wanted to try to test out a live stream of one. And today I'll be painting a friend's dog. This is a greyhound, and I really love greyhounds. I think they're so beautiful. They're really long and elegant. And I've got it all like sketched in. So apologies if you were hoping to see that part of the process, but it's nothing too fancy. I keep it pretty simple and straightforward because I'm just gonna go over it and paint anyways in pretty blocky paint. So I lose the drawing pretty quickly. It's never worth spending too much time on the drawing. So luckily my friend gave me a really good photo to work from. It makes the job so much easier. In this photo, the dog has started to show some age, and it's got a little bit of a gray face going on. I'm gonna put a wash of warmth to kind of let it come through, because even though the nose is gray, I don't want it to be a cold gray. I want it to be a warm, nice feeling from it. So I'm using a paper towel right now. It's not really a legit approach, but it's just to kind of keep it nice and soft. Of course you can use a brush, but I don't like too much water on it, just for the sake of time. And this is Arches watercolor paper, Coldpress, 7x10. It's my favorite paper to use, even though it's kind of got some issues with the glue. It's been a little bit of a pain. All right. So right now I'm focusing on getting in some of the darks and just kind of defining the dog a little better. It'll help me not lose the line work and get confused with what's going on. And for the line work, I did semi-grit it out. I don't like to get too much gritting in there, because you do lose a little bit of life from it. And I feel like it's easy to get comfortable doing that approach, and you don't really become stronger as an artist. But I don't mind it either, because I'm confident enough in my drawing skills that I know if I needed to, I could do it. It's just for the sake of efficiency in there. Just getting their general values. I can always go in and fix it up. Making sure I have all the values correct, darkening where the shadows are. Now I'm getting a little bit of this gray. I'll show a picture of the photo reference later. I did tweak it a little bit in Photoshop because I wanted a more simple background, and I just wanted to see what it looked like at the aspect ratio that I was using. And this is a brindle pup. Brindle means kind of like that striped look going on. You see it a lot in like boxers, or I see it in pit bulls. I always used to want a greyhound. I still do, but I'm not sure how good it would get along with all the farm animals. Although Coconut is not the best with our farm animals, she's pretty good with the chickens. She does like to chase the cats. Got these gums, and there's a little bit of teeth showing. Those teeth are not accurate. Probably gonna have to go and fix that a little bit. I'm gonna put a little bit of gray up in the nose. Get some definition in there. I'll put in some of these teeth. The problem a lot of people have with teeth in general is that they make them far too white and a lot of contrast. They also, for humans, I see a lot of like individual teeth painted in, which is really distracting and not really how people see teeth. I'm gonna put this tongue in. I did print out my reference, so I have both a printed version and a screen in front of me because I want to see the more true colors of the photo. And I don't really want to waste printer ink on getting a perfect photo. So I don't know if you're familiar with greyhounds, but because they have these really long, elegant necks and small heads, they often need a special collar. So they're called martingale collars, and they have a little loop that tightens it slightly. I've always loved these collars. They look so graceful. And they're usually very wide as well. bit more gray up in the face. It's got these really nice lines coming down from the smile. Really happy looking dog. Alright. So we got it pretty much blocked in at this point. I'm going to take a minute to clean my palette. I want the colors to be somewhat clean and exactly what I'm looking for when I'm painting. And I'll also let it kind of dry a little bit. So I left the background on this one completely black because the face is super light and I just like the lighting on the dog. So I want the focus to be completely on the dog. But you'll see how it all comes together when I'm painting this black. I love painting negative shapes. I know I talk about negative shapes a lot, but it's just so rewarding to me to watch something come together just by painting the outsides of it. In fact, I was debating on starting that way, but I didn't. Sorry about that noise. It's a water fountain for the cats. They seem to have taken over my working space. I'm bringing in some of this black into the mouth. And right now I'm mostly looking to just fill in all the white areas on the canvas. It doesn't need to be perfect. I added a little bit of blue to this black that I'm using. Their noses kind of go up a little bit and have a soft slope. Ah, that's so rewarding to see it all come together. So now that that's done, you can see there really isn't a ton of work once you get these basic elements down. Going in and adding a little more thickness to the black. I'll most likely be going over it one more time because I am kind of a neat freak about my backgrounds, but it's nice to have it mostly done. And what's nice about using the black is that, like the pure tube black, is that I don't have to worry about the value changing too much when I work on top of it, like doing cleanup and stuff. So even though I'm working from a photo, I'm still squinting quite a bit to make sure that I get the general values correct, blocking things in the way they should be. So I'm watering down the black a little bit, and I'm gonna go kind of just get rid of these white areas that are driving me nuts. I'm gonna add a little bit of color. In the picture, the shadow's pretty warm, so I want to bring that in a little bit. It's important to kind of pay attention to the way the hair is going down the neck. And let's see here. Add a little bit of white. Again, I'm paying attention to the direction of the fur. I always thought that brindle dogs were tricky to paint, so we'll see how well this goes. You can see a lot of the anatomy in these dogs because they're so skinny. I'm going to add a little bit of reflective light just to give it a little more roundness and depth. This fur goes down this way. almost didn't pick this photo because his ears are back, but I just really love the photo. There was another that I was debating between doing, but in the end I kind of think about which one I'm going to have the most fun with, and usually that will show in the painting itself. So there might be something that would look better in a painting, but if you're not having fun with it, then I say choose something else. So I'm using a little bit of this pure black just to bring in some of the background a bit, and adding a little bit of detail to the nose. And right now you can see there's no more line work left to work from, so I have to be careful about my proportions and make sure to check everything. So I always like line areas up, like this eye corner should be at the corner of like the teeth. That way you're not making really huge eyes and or any like super drawn drawing. Oops. Alright. So I mentioned before I use Opera Rose, and I had this whole phase where I used it a ton, but I realized that the light, fast qualities of it are not great. So right now I've been trying to go back to just using alizarin crimson and cadmium red. I might bring in some other different reds that are more permanent just to try out. I'll still use the pink, but I'm just a little more cautious to how much I use it because I want my paintings to last, and you know, I don't want to sell work that's gonna fade. I plan on putting a care sheet together on gouache paintings for people that buy my work, because there's a lot of things that people might not think about when they're hanging them. For example, you want like a mat in between the glass and the painting, and you want it to keep it away from light, so in a shadier spot in your house is good. Just little things that I personally didn't think about much when I started out. So now that I'm adding kind of the highlights of Tristan's face, that's the dog's name, I've been adding a little bit of yellow ochre just to bring in this wash that I have underneath and make it a little bit warmer. And in the photo, it appears that this area is the brightest spots, as well as that little highlight in his eye. It's always got like a little bit of a reddish quality to it. I'm going in, and this area is always a little bit darker because you see the lips a little bit. No lips, yeah, I guess so. It's kind of a gradient going up, so it takes a little more concentration. A little bit of lighter fur up here. Just putting in some of the areas where I'm seeing actual bits of fur. You don't want to do this to the whole thing. I mean, I guess you can. There's no rules, but I personally don't. Although I did have a project in college that was called Every Hair of the Dog, I think that's what it was called. And I love doing it because you're painting in just about every hair of the dog with a tiny brush, and it gives a super realistic look to your painting at the end. It's definitely worth trying, especially if you've never done it before. It's a lot of fun. So once again, looking at the direction of the fur, and by looking at this photo, I can tell the structure of the face kind of drops down here. And this little highlight under the eye shows the skeletal structure underneath. A little bit of highlight right here on the tongue. I love the shape of this tongue because just based on this you can tell that there are the teeth underneath. I don't know if anyone else thinks that's cool, but I do. So, still going. And put in a little, I think it's a little bit darker. Actually, there's gonna be a little more black under here. So right now when I'm looking at the painting, this area is really popping out at me. And while I like that kind of luminescent quality of it, I want to push it back slightly. Because I don't want it to be distracting. You can add a little bit of these brindle colors too as we go in. And as we get closer to the ears, it gets a little bit darker. And there's a really warm spot right here. And this is dividing the two ears, which silhouette is kind of tricky. All right, we're getting there. And there's this part of the head which is a little bit lighter. Shows you some form on the top of this ear. So I'm dipping into some of the grays that I have on my palette already, and I'm gonna try to put in some of this brindle coloring. It's a bit of a dry brush effect that I have. And the tricky part about brindle is getting the right values. And you want to make it kind of subtle. Squinting still. I'm adding a little more detail to the ears. So probably the most important part of the piece is going to be the eyes, or the eye. Alright, now let's use some of this black and chisel out some of the features in the mouth. I want to get these teeth a little more accurate. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I really don't want it to be about these teeth anyway. And I'm gonna go in and darken the teeth a little bit. There's a couple more teeth under here. They're super dark though, you can barely tell that they're there. But I'm gonna go and yellow them up a little bit. Alright. Sorry if I'm quiet, I kind of get into these moods where I'm just super focused. I also can't see, I don't know if there must be chatting on the YouTube live, but I can't see it, so. Otherwise I would be answering questions. I'm a little more used to doing this on Instagram, but I like to have all my videos in one place. I've been trying to transfer over. I'm working on getting some of this brindle color. And these stripes going up the neck. Kind of flowing into this ear over here. And this shadow under the ear is pretty strong. You can see a little bit lighter on the brindle up here. And with the coloring, I'm gonna kind of keep going back and forth between going lighter and darker. So by the neck here, it's a little bit lighter. This is all gonna dry darker. Using my finger just to kind of soften the edges a little bit. As with all my paintings, I kind of just keep flip-flopping back and forth in different parts of the painting. Oops, that might be too bright. Darken that a bit. This pup is pretty old at this point in the photo. You can tell by the really yellow teeth. Still good looking teeth, but they all yellow a little bit with age. Hoping those darken a little bit more. I'm squinting, and I really need to kind of push them back. Especially these teeth that I'm about to put in. They're pretty dark. So I'm going to put in some of the details in the collar because this dog has a very ornate looking collar on him that I really like. And also I feel like a lot of times the collars are something to really remember your dog by. We have our collars of our dogs that passed away. I've been meaning to put them up. And these really pretty red bands. And there's some gold elements. So this blue collar is really dark right here. Sounds like I got a package. some of this black with some burnt umber to darken these areas. Alright. Add in some of the brindle on the face. Just tiny little specks here and there. And my palette is super dry because this whole time I have not sprayed it down. I'm going to take a minute and spray it. Also going to clean my palette. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna go back and add more black to my palette. There it is. And there's a bunch of different blacks. I use ivory black. And the different blacks will be kind of different shades. A lot of people use ivory black in limited palettes, and the black, when mixed with white or other colors, turns out to be a pretty convincing looking blue. So the paint I'm using is pretty thick. It's not as watered down as the first run that I gave. And I want a good even coat of this black. It's also going to give me an opportunity to clean up some of these edges that I have going on and define the shape a little better. So I'm exaggerating the shape of the ears slightly because I really want to show that there's 2 ears. And I'm trying to be careful with the application. If I'm too fast, it has a tendency to splatter, and we don't want that. So when I'm painting these shapes, I'm constantly looking up back at the reference to make sure I'm getting the right silhouette and the right shapes. I see a lot of people when they're painting, they're not even looking at the reference, and then they wonder why it doesn't look right. You've got to constantly be looking at your reference. Eventually I'll try to get a better system for camera work so you can see the reference while I'm painting, and also maybe a camera of me while I'm painting so you can see my horrible facial expressions. So there's still some detail to the color that I want to do. Like I said, the collar that is on this dog is very ornate. Has a lot of charm to it, I think. So it's important for me to capture it. It's got little gold details in here, and it's not even super obvious. But the owner will know. And I'm keeping these pretty abstract. Little red bits in there. There's a little part that I want to get of the collar hitting the light on this side. Just a little bit. And then the light continues up here. And of course, with any gold detail, you have a really bright highlights. And go and redefine this shape a little better. Alright, there is a line going down the middle of the tongue. I'm going to darken the tongue a little bit to kind of bring the teeth out. Dipping back in the black, and now I'm going to make sure my hand is dry so I don't smear a bunch of paint all over like I usually do. And I'm going to add some of these eye details. And I can even get a little bit more detailed. Adding hints of the fur. All right. adding a little bit of texture to the tongue. I don't want to add too much. And then on the tongue, on the back, it's a little bit of light, just to give it some form. And there's some darker highlights that I'm going to put in just along the gum line to show, you know, he's really salivating. And while I'm at it, I'm going to put some lighter bits to add a little bit of depth to this gummy area. And he has some really nice lashes. I'll try to put a little better detail in. Again, I'm checking, making sure my hand is dry. I have done this way too many times where I drag paint all over a spot because I'm not paying attention. Going back into the fur. Throwing a little more detail in there. Ears, probably go and darken parts of it. There's longer bits of fur by the ear that I kind of like. I'm going to put that in there. And it gets a little bit darker here. Sorry, I'm really quiet. Not the best at talking while I paint. And I don't always say the best things when I'm painting, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm always happy to answer any questions through messages or email. It's easier for me to think when I'm typing something out versus talking. Introvert problems. So now I'm getting in the more detailed nitty-gritty bits. Then I'm gonna go up in the mouth, add a little more detail. Okay. Now back to the eye. Get some of these lashes in there. Now I'm doing kind of the same thing that I just did with all these little dark hairs. I'm gonna go with some lighter color now. And do the same kind of thing. I'm trying to hit up the lightest spots that I'm noticing in the painting, and then I can kind of work in between. So I like to do the lightest lights and the darkest darks and work my way in. I don't always work like that, but it's generally what I like to do. Following the direction of the fur. And the hairs on the nose are super tiny and short. And you'll need to keep working in layers if a spot isn't the value that you want. It's probably one of my #1 things with gouache that I tell people. Gotta just keep going. And there's some little hairs. Oops. Not what I want. I'm gonna do some of these hairs on the neck. It's a little light. I'll try to tone it down in value a little bit. Add a little cool color too. I don't want too much attention to this area. I'm going back into this dark part because I used my finger to kind of smear on the color a little, and I want this to stay pretty dark. Okay, now I'm squinting, looking at some of the areas that I want to push back a little bit. a pure black to touch up some of the little spots, and hopefully it dries the same value. But if not, I can go over it all again. Not a big deal. I want to get these teeth somewhat correct, because I know this person will know. Alright. I'm going to add just a teeny highlight to the nose. I'm going to brighten this highlight on the eye too. Kind of shape the highlight to go with the curve of the eyeball. Alright. Oh no. A little bit of a splatter. Yeah. Oh. Didn't quite do that line and the tongue right. Maybe a little higher. And up here. Alright. I'm gonna go over a little more with this black. noticing any little speckles in a black background. A little bit of the black in the ear to set it back. I'm gonna try and add a little bit of light on its nose. Just a bit of a bounce. What I want to do is just add a little more form to the face. Trying to do a little bit under the head as well. And although the eye color is pretty spot on, I'm gonna kind of bring out the saturation a little bit. I don't even know if you can tell. Okay, I'm almost done. Now I'm kind of looking at it and seeing where I want to push forward or push back. I'm pretty happy with the fur, but I don't like when a bunch of the strokes look super even. So I'm going to try to add a little bit of variation, some thinner strokes. And also I'm gonna do some washes to push back some of these lines that I have going on, but I want to simplify it into broader shapes. Push back some of these hairs. Also gonna push back the teeth a bit. I really love this brush that I'm using. It's a Kolinsky hair from Princeton, I believe, all the way from Germany. I've used it so much that I actually wore down the number on it. I wanted to reorder some, but I'm not really sure which size it is. But I'll probably go to a store and check it out in person. So I think that's about it. Yeah, I might do a couple more small things on my own, but most likely I'll just call it done. Just sign it. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I was able to get a new video out for you guys. I really appreciate all the new subscribers and hope you're enjoying it. I'm gonna try to get more content for you. Been kind of in a funk lately. Actually, I think tonight, if I have time, I want to do a Halloween themed one. I have a skull all set up. It's been a while since I've done skulls though. Anyway, I'll post more on Instagram in my stories if I plan to do another live stream tonight. But thank you for watching.